Wolf Nose. An old woman bought cabbages at Jacob's mother's stall on the market. She said,
"Look at me! I can only walk with a stick and cannot carry my bags myself. Let your son carry my bags home for me. I will reward him later."
The little boy did not want to go with her and cried. He was very afraid, but his mother ordered him to help the old woman. She The Frog King. There was a big dark forest close to the king's castle, and an old oak close to the well. The king's daughter often played with her golden ball near the well. The ball was her favorite toy. One day, the ball fell into the well. The princess began to cry, and while she was sobbing, a voice suddenly asked,
"Why are you crying?"
She saw an ugly frog looking up from the water. The frog offered to help her.
"What will you give me if I return the golden ball?"
"Whatever you want, Aunt." Tavern of Forest. The animals are in a good mood and are enjoying themselves. They love coming to the forest tavern, as the dwarf entertains his guests very well. They all sit together drinking wine. They talk, sing, and dance.
Hier oben tatsächlich ist dieser lustige Stall.
The Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, there were a queen and a king who longed so much for a child. And when, as a frog had predicted, one day a pretty little princess lay in the cradle, the whole country rejoiced, and the wise women were invited to baptism. There were 13 of them, but only 12 golden plates. So the couple had to unload one from the feast. When the wise women now gave their wishes to the Sleeping Beauty in the way of life, the 13th came rushing in and implored, "At age 15, the Sleeping Beauty will be stung by a spindle and fall dead." "Not dead," said the 12th, who had not yet expressed her wish. "Only in 100 years' sleep." What did it help the king to burn all the spindles in the country? In the tower room, one was forgotten. And so it happened that on the day when the Sleeping Beauty had just turned 15 years old, the king and the queen were not at home, and the girl remained alone in the castle. There she went around everywhere and strolled through all the rooms. So she eventually came to the old tower. Up the narrow spiral staircase she climbed, and the little room was no longer hidden from her. An old woman sat there and spun her flax with a spindle. "Good morning, old mother," said the king's daughter. "What are you doing, old woman?" "What is that funny thing jumping around?" the girl asked, taking the spindle and wanting to start spinning. And as soon as she had touched the spindle, the magic spell came true, and
Lupo.
Nibble, nibble, no. Who is nibbling at my little house?
The children answered, the wind, the heaven-born wind.
Oh, you dear children, come in and stay with me. No harm shall happen to you.
The old woman had only pretended to be so gentle and kind. Actually, she was a wicked witch who was waiting to catch and imprison children. She had built the house made of bread to attract these children.
bei uns weit verbreitet. Da sie aber recht scheu ist, sieht man sie im Vergleich zur Hausmaus eher selten. Sie kommt nicht nur im Wald, sondern auch in Parks und Gärten vor. Der Hase ist ein Pflanzenfresser. Er ernährt sich von Gräsern, Kräutern, Blättern und Blüten. Seine Hinterbeine sind länger als die Fliegen nachtaktiv. Sie sind geschickte Jäger, die oft Beutetiere reißen, die so groß wie sie oder sogar größer sind. Die Kreuzspinne ernährt sich von kleineren Insekten, die sie an den klebrigen Fäden ihres Netzes fängt. Man findet sie an Waldrändern, aber auch in Gärten und auf Wiesen.
Der Maulwurf schiebt beim Graben Erde an die Oberfläche, wodurch die Maulwurfshügel entstehen. Er ernährt sich vorwiegend von Würmern und Insekten.
Once there was a boy who had 3 sons, and when he died, the sons shared the inheritance. The oldest got the mill, the second the donkey, and the third the cat. Sadly, Hans, the youngest, said to himself, "What will I do with the cat? A pair of fur gloves from his coat I can make, but they're undone." The cat, however, understood everything and said, "Let me have some leather boots, and be helped." Said and done. When the cat had his boots, he took a sack, filled it halfway with grain, caught fat partridges in the forest, and brought them to the king. As the cat knew, these were very rare and difficult to catch for the king's hunters. The king's mouth was watering when he saw the prey, his body food. My lord the count is hailing the king and sends to him these partridges. In gratitude for the count's goodness, the cat got as much gold from the royal treasury as he could carry. Hans was amazed when the cat poured out the gold pieces on the floor. "I can make you even richer," said he. "Come to the lake and bathe in it." Although the young miller found this a little bit funny, he did as he was told. As the king went out for a ride, as the cat had known, of course, he passed the lake. The cat ran to the royal carriage in a hurry and started to mourn. His master, Count Carolus, had been bathing, but thieves had stolen his clothes, and now he couldn't get out of the water. The king had his servants quickly bring some clothing, and put Hans, or better, Count Carolus, beside him in the carriage. Even the princess was delighted, because the count looked very good in the new state clothes. The cat, however, was already ahead of everyone, and hurried further. He told all the people working.
Beim zweiten Mal freilich hat der Hänsel Brotkrumen hinter sich auf den Weg geworfen und die hatten die Vöglein alle aufgepickt. Als die Alte die beiden nun ins Haus einlud, hatten sie alle Angst vergessen. Die Hexe trug ihnen Pfannkuchen mit Zucker und
Beginnen.
Na, wer im Turm wohnt, wollte ich wissen.
Das Rapunzel natürlich. Ach, ein liebes Mädchen.
Komm, erzähl mir was von ihr.
Die wünschten sich schon lange. Endlich im Garten die schönsten Rapunzeln und begehrte so danach, dass sie fast starb. Der Mann dachte, ehe du deine Frau sterben lässt, holst du ihr von den Rapunzeln. Es mag kosten, was es will. In der Abenddämmerung stieg er ein. Seine Hochnäsigkeit und eitler Stolz waren von diesem Tage an gebrochen. Der Igel aber nahm seinen goldenen Taler und eine Flasche Wein und ging mit seiner Frau vergnügt nach Hause.
Und wenn sie nicht gestorben sind, dann leben sie noch heute.
Genau, so begab sich's nun das ungleiche Rennen. Vielleicht weißt du nun, warum ein freundlicher und höflicher Umgang für alle von Vorteil ist. Denn die Lehre, die sich hinter dieser Geschichte verbirgt, besagt eigentlich nur eins.
Oh, das ist schneller zu, oder? Jetzt eine Frage.
Immer ausgekannt. Ever since our mother died, we have nothing but sorrow. Our stepmother is mistreating us every day. Come, sister, let's run away together. Brother and sister did not live in a happy home. In fact, their stepmother happened to be a witch. And so they ran away together. When they came into the forest, brother got terribly thirsty, and all the brooks had been enchanted by the witch. Who drinks of me, a tiger will be, they heard the first brook call out. Who drinks of me, a wolf would brook, for she was afraid of being torn to pieces by the wild beasts. But at the very next spring, she couldn't stop her brother anymore, and so he was turned into a frog. Time went by, but at least they were happy they still had each other. Then one day, the king was hunting in the forest, and in doing so, he discovered the frog at the hut where brother and sister lived. When sister opened the door, she saw the king, and they fell in love with each other. They celebrated their wedding with a great feast. The fawn was also taken care of very well and had its place. After a little while, the newly married couple was happy and expecting. Everyone was delighted. Everyone except the stepmother. She had believed her siblings to be dead for a long time. But what bored her even more was that her own daughter, who was as ugly as sin, had not become queen. Therefore, the witch made an evil plan once more. Mama, eat it! On the day when the queen gave birth to the beautiful baby, the witch killed the queen, who converted her own daughter into the queen. The deception was perfect. But every night, the ghost of the blue queen returned to look after her baby at the farm. The nurse witnessed all this and went to the king to tell him. The very next night, the king came to observe what was happening. He heard the ghost say, "My child, my fawn, once more I come to see. Once more I will come, and then the end must be." The king jumped up and said, "You are no other than my dear wife." And in that moment, she came back to life and turned into flesh and blood again. At the king's orders, the witch and her daughter were immediately taken to court. The witch had to change back the fawn into its human shape. The spell was broken, and for the very first time in her life, the witch did something good. Nevertheless, there could be no mercy for them, and the witch and her daughter were banned out of the land for good.
Once upon a time there was a tailor who had 3 sons and a goat. They were very poor. One after another the tailor threw his sons out of the house because he thought they were liars and layabouts. All his sons were learning a trade. The oldest was learning to be a carpenter, the second a miller, and the third how to thresh the corn. Their teachers had enjoyed teaching them so much that when they said goodbye, they gave them wonderful magic presents. The master carpenter gave the oldest son a magic table. This table could set itself. One only had to say, "Table, set yourself." And in a second the most wonderful things to eat and to drink appeared on the table. The master miller gave the second son a donkey that produced gold. One only had to put out a cloth and say, "Wrinkle bits," and it would rain out pieces of gold. The third son was given a club in a sack by his master. Soon he found out that that was not so useless as it seemed at first. On the way home, his brothers had stayed the night at an inn. The innkeeper had discovered the magic gifts that their masters had given them. While they slept, the innkeeper had exchanged the magic table for a normal table of the same size. Then he did the same thing with the donkey that produced gold. The father, after many years, had now forgiven his sons, and when the first 2 wanted to show him their wonderful presents, they realized that they had been tricked. But the brother with the club in the sack also spent a night at the inn, and the innkeeper tried to steal the club in the sack. But the son called, "Club, come out of the sack!" And the club leapt out and danced on the innkeeper's humpback. The innkeeper begged it to stop. He promised, "I will give your brothers all the treasures back." So the young brother said, "Club, back in the sack." The innkeeper rubbed his blue back and brought out the magic table and the gold donkey. What joy there was for the whole family when the third son arrived home with the magic table, the gold donkey, and the club in the sack. Once upon a time, the king invited all the beautiful ladies of the kingdom to a ball in order to find a wife for his son. Cinderella wanted very much to go to the ball too. When she asked her stepmother for permission, the stepmother tipped a bowl of lentils into the ashes at the fireplace and said,
If you succeed in separating the good ones from the rotten ones within 2 hours, then you may go to the ball too.
The girl called on the ducks to help to place the good lentils into a pot. After 1.5 hours, the work was done. Cinderella ran to her mother's grave under a hazelnut tree, and there a bird brought her a beautiful dress and golden shoes. He warned Cinderella and said, "At midnight on the 12th strike, you will turn back into Cinderella." She went to the ball and she looked so beautiful that nobody recognized her. The king's son only danced with her all night long. But just before midnight, Cinderella ran away from the ball. The king's son tried to stop Cinderella from leaving. As she ran away from the castle, one of her shoes. The following day, the king's son set out to look for the foot of the girl that fit this little beautiful shoe. Many ladies all over the country tried on the golden shoe, but it did not fit any of them. Eventually, he came to sit, took off her wooden shoes, and the shoe fit her perfectly. He immediately recognized the girl and shouted with joy, "This will be my wife." The stepmother and the stepsisters were very jealous of Cinderella. The king's son took Cinderella to his castle and they got married.
Die Königin mit Schneewittchen in den Wald geschickt, damit er es töten sollte. Der Jäger aber hatte Mitleid und dachte, die wilden Tiere werden schon das ihrige tun. Schneewittchen aber fand den Weg zu den guten Zwergen. Aber da war noch der Zauberspiegel im Gemach der Königin. Jeden Tag befragte sie ihn, Spieglein, Spieglein an der Wand, wer ist die Schönste im ganzen Land? Spiegel lügen nicht.